Slinging seeds, sliding on into home, throwing heat, buddy, we're going, gone. If you gotta go down, you gotta go down, swinging, slinging seeds. It's America's favorite pastime. Come on, let's have a good time, slinging seeds. Yeah, we're just slinging seeds.
Hey everyone, welcome to another week of Slinging Seeds. I'm your host, Kyle Evans. Across from me is my co-host, Doug Adams. And our special guest today is our good friend, Marty Orwick. Doug, will you go ahead and give us a little bit of a small intro on Marty?
Yeah, so I met Marty playing adult softball 15 years ago, probably 20 years ago.
Yeah,
20,
we're
20,
getting old.
20, 22, 23 years ago. We used to play on a church softball team together. Had some fun with a few other guys. One of his boys from down in Kentucky, Tristan, was there, played with us. It was a lot of fun. Zach Trent. So I've known him a long time. He lived with Zach at the time. They were roommates, and so we kind of developed our relationship. We didn't really have a great relationship early on because we're both different individuals and we're both real kind of brash, but our relationship grew. Marty's been coaching in the Canes organization, now P413, for the last like 6 years, 5 years. He's done a really good job with his 14-year-old team, which are 2029s, and they've continued to grow. And what Marty does best for adults is the mental side. There's a lot of people who, at the adult level, myself included, who go to him for mentoring and that kind of stuff that helps you with your mental game stuff. So that's one of the things we're going to get into today. But if you talk to Marty, though, obviously he's a big important part of P413, but he'll tell you he's the maintenance man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Payroll
Absolutely. Marty, I just want to thank you for coming on today. And I will definitely second that. The mental side, definitely got that wired down. I know I go to you for advice and guidance often, which would lead me into my first question. Tell me a little bit about yourself, about how you got started and stuff like that. And I guess we'll let you lead.
We'll dive deep early, I guess.
Yes, sir.
I've loved sports my whole life. Played five. I'm just a sports nut, right? But the mental side of it came. My brother committed suicide when back in 2005, and was absolutely my best friend in the world, my mentor, person I went to for everything. So it kind of threw me on my ear, and I had what I like to call a God or not God moment, where you kind of got to choose. You can't live in the gray area, right? Because when you get a scenario like that, you got to choose which path you're going to go. So I chose to dive into what it takes for a person to reason through what they do in a day. I started to study the human brain, tendencies, personalities, and how all that stuff works together. And I've just continued that process. And through that and my love for sports, my love for Christ, it kind of all came together. It became, I guess you would say, my mission to start to apply what I've learned there to help me cope with and understand what happened with my brother and apply it to where it could maybe keep others from going down the same path. So that's really what's driven me to where I'm at. And it's much more than just a skill set. It's a passion. It's kind of the reason I get up is to, if I can keep one 15-year-old kid from making a decision that they don't know they shouldn't make based on the stuff, then it's worth it.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the team that you took over when they were 10 or 11. They weren't really good. I think it's the fairest way to say it. Played a lot of low-level tournaments. You tried to grow them. In this world of select baseball, it is been impressive to see you keep a core together for 5 years, right?
Oh
That
yeah.
doesn't really happen these days.
Mm.
Everybody moves in and out, they go to different programs, but that group is, I don't know, I always call it like I don't want to call it, I don't know the right word, but it's like a family. You
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
fight like family. You guys are tight. You guys do everything together. When
We
you go
trust
on the
each other.
road, you stay together.
Yeah.
Um,
I often tell Clint, you guys are like a sitcom family.
Yeah.
so,
For
tell
real.
us a
You ain't
little
lying.
bit about how in this world of select baseball, you've had the ability to keep a group together for 5 years and not interchange a bunch of athletes where you kept one group and you said, no, these are the guys I'm going to grow with.
So kudos to you. I'm not trying to do the kumbaya stuff, but kudos to you and the organization that you built. Created a development mindset that was sincere. Everybody says that they're going to develop guys. Oh, we're all about development. I understand, but like you all really are. You always have been. And what it's created is the ability for us to have honest conversations. Because when you're not, before you get to 15, 16, it's not really about the kid. It's about the parent. You got to win the parent. The parent has to comprehend what this path looks like, right? They got to understand that it if you're going to stay with us, it's going to look like this. And you put all of the crap on the table for them, right? So they can sift through it and go, okay, I like that, I don't like that, and they can make an honest, informed decision as to whether or not they're going to stick or go. So, and then if you just hold to what you said, integrity, right? You do what you say you're going to do, then it allows for you to focus on the actual development of the kid. And at that age, it's all mental. They don't even know what they're going to be yet. They don't know. Like when I first got them, they couldn't hardly hold their heads up, like it was a thing. But it creates a scenario where if you've got the parents buy in, the parent will support you with the kid when you're being hard with the kid because you know it's what they need. Every kid's different. So being able to have that buy-in, being able to truly commit to the development of the kid versus the win or the loss, uh, it's really beneficial because it allows me to know like I know these young men, right? And the more they stay, the more trend there is, the more consistency there is, and it creates the ability for them to grow. Growing between their 13 and 14 year, people ask me when we would go to tournaments, how many, man, your team, they look good. How many kids did you lose? I said, two. What are you talking about? Well, yeah, different. There's like, it's a totally different team. Yeah, different team, same kids because of consistency. So it being honest with the parents, being honest with the kids, staying consistent to what you're saying, and then you all have set up a system where it allowed us to do that.
Yeah, I understand that part of it with the player and the parent and all that. What puts you in the right mental state? Because a lot of coaches couldn't do that, right? So,
Yeah.
what puts you in the mental state of, I don't want to say this the right way to say it, right? I'm not chasing this trophy. I'm not chasing more wins next year. I'm chasing these 12 kids getting better and staying with me, and I'm not replacing them. I'm not doing a tryout,
Yep.
all that stuff, right? That all teams do and you don't, right?
Yep.
So, hey, we're not having a tryout. These are my guys, right? If
Yep.
you want to leave, okay, I'll go find one that fits the family, but you don't do tryouts. You don't do all that. So, as a coach, how do you get in that mental space that that's who you want to be, and how do you stay consistent in that process over 5 years?
I believe that it's necessary. I believe it's the best case scenario for building an athlete is giving them consistency. And it's not about me. It's not about what I want. Like I played sports. I'm done. It's about learning the kid. It's about learning what their best. My goal is to make every athlete that wants to play this game able to play it as long as they can. And I can't do that I can't do it as effectively in 1 year as I can in 5. So if I'm really going to commit to an athlete in their path, it, this is you taught me in the very beginning of all this when I was like, oh, I need you to work on this with Logan. You said that's not the way this works. Building the correct swing takes 4 to 5 years. It's a process. I took that to heart. That's that's a that's the way it is with anything in athletics. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a commitment to excellence. It's a commitment to a system. It's learning each other's tendencies. It's learning emotions. I can't speak to every kid the same. I don't learn that. They don't even know who they are at 10,
Yeah.
right? They start really figuring out who they are 11, 12, 13, right there. If I'm not There's a lot of answers to that. But if I'm in it for me, it's not going to work. And in order for me to be in it for them, I have to have time to learn them and grow them. And as they change, I change with them. And the longer you're with somebody, the longer the relationship goes, the deeper it gets, the more, right? The more
Yep.
personal it gets, the more you can start figuring out, well, I can already see he's about to go there.
Mm.
Hayden Cross.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Mm.
When we first got that kid, their parents trusted me like most parents just wouldn't do it because we had things to work through with him. Big, strong kid, but like couldn't throw a ball across the diamond right.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
Right?
so I mean, I guess that's my next thing when you talk about the kids, right? Because we could go into all of them individually,
Sure.
right? For sure. But so like, you're not really an exit velocity guy. It's not something that you pride yourself on. You understand the value of it.
Yeah.
So like when you see this exit velocity leaderboard, a team that won 4 games when they were 11, or 10 or 11, right? And now on our exit velocity leaderboard at 14, there's 6 of the top 12 names of all the athletes that train here are your guys' exit velocities, right?
Yep.
How does that make you feel as a coach? And then also, now that they're starting to do things that higher level athletes do, how do you change the mental expectation for them that the bar has changed?
Accomplished as a coach because they're achieving. The biggest win is that they're expecting to achieve now. Right?
Yeah.
That we've set the environment. That's where that longevity in a relationship comes from. That's the value, is because I set the expectation here. Right?
Mhm.
And because they were willing to stay, the expectation has consistently been, we had a conversation about the first year. I'm ready to be done. I'm like, I don't know why did you let me coach? This is insane. Right? I think you alluded to it prior. But I literally felt like a complete failure in year one because I said, we've won 4 games, Doug. Like, and you said, are you nuts? I said, I don't understand. We're sitting here figuring out how you won a game, much less 4. Like,
Doug.
honestly, that his
I know.
comment was, every coach in this organization has not figured out yet how you won a game, much less 4.
Right.
And he said, we're wondering how you did. I was like, they didn't know they weren't supposed to.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, now last year you had a winning record. Not that records, you know, me, I'm not a
Well,
win
no,
loss
but
guy,
progress, right?
but it's definitely progress.
I think the best thing about it too is you see the excitement, you see the happiness that's built inside of these kids
They
now
love
that
to
they
work.
are succeeding.
Yeah.
And I love your grace through it all, as if you know it was going to happen the entire time, because you did. I think you did.
I know it can.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's my favorite piece
100%.
of it. So go ahead, Doug.
No, you're good.
Yeah. The thing that I love the most is they love to work.
Oh yeah.
Like what I consistently hear in this building is, where are your dudes? It's all them. Oh, they're always here. Of course they are. How do you get better?
Exactly.
Like you commit to your craft, and they all want it. So as long as you want it and you're willing to put in the work, I'm dedicating to you.
Yes.
I'm going to teach them, to answer your question from earlier, mental fortitude, man. Like they understood from the beginning, this is not going to be easy. We're not going to get a bunch of medal rings and jump up and down. We're going to learn to get better at this game, and we're going to push you to be the best version of you so you can play this wonderful game as long as you possibly have the ability to do it. That's always been the goal since the beginning.
Absolutely. You mentioned, I mean, they're always in here, and they are always in here. I mean,
Yeah.
I see Clint, I see Mark Atkins. They're all in here with their kids. Tell me what helped you set that standard. Is it the parents behind it? Is it the consistency? There was a lot put into that. So tell me exactly how that becomes full circle.
I believe in a God that designed us to be conquerors, that did not give us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power and self-control. And if I'm going to stay true to my faith, then it needs to come out in everything that I do. And so the best way to do that is through the way that I teach young men to be men, right?
Mhm.
So there is no room in there for you to be afraid. There is no room in there for you to be selfish. It's going to happen because we're human, but there's no room in the design for it. So it's a standard that's set, and it's not hard to keep if you're honest with yourself about it and you're living the path as well, right? I've made mistakes coaching, and I've come back in the same scenario to apologize for the mistake that I made because I want to teach them humility. And through all of that, it breeds a certain level of just innate work ethic because they're not so worried about that exit velocity. I do believe exit velocity is a huge gauge that we have to use because it's what colleges look for, right? And Hayden has always been a big, strong kid, but he never really knew how to use his body. But through the consistent work that he puts in constantly, now he's topping leaderboards and he's able to throw the ball across the diamond and a million other things, right? It's not because he just was naturally gifted to be, he works hard. And I've got a group of those kids that work hard. They work like crazy. And I said, the only two reasons I will yell at you is if you're afraid or if you're lazy. Those are not acceptable, not on this team, because it's not acceptable in the world that you're going to live in when you get done with this stuff. So that's why they are, that set the table. That's why they are the way they are. It's because it's really kind of all they've known as far as since they've been in our system.
Okay, so a little bit, I want to kind of spin this a little different. Obviously, with the way we train and stuff, you're also a dad, right? You have an eighth grader,
Yeah,
right? Logan, who's in here all the time getting his training. I actually think he has a lesson tonight.
he does.
Um,
Too.
so now that he's starting to work, and I know you've gotten into team practice now, but as he got to see an off season of what it looks like working with the high school kids,
Yeah,
right? He got to work with all the freshmen and seniors because of the way we train, where you go in your position groups and you train with guys that are older than you.
yeah,
You develop those relationships. You also he just participated in his first PBR event
true.
on our scout day. So as a parent, seeing that, what were your takeaways from that? And what do you think it did for Logan mentally, seeing all that as an eighth grader?
I don't think that there's any negative. Uh, Working in the high school program gave him an opportunity to understand what we're working towards, right? When he comes in and you're seeing the first group of them coming through and we're whipping through things, right?
Right.
And they see that it's a higher level and that's their expectation because now they're a part of it. I put him to be totally honest, I put him in the PBR event because in eighth grade, by the time he gets to sophomore year, I want it to be old hat. I want him to come in with a clean understanding a a plan of attack. I don't want the emotions to be involved. So,
I love that perspective.
but he was so excited. That the best thing was he was so excited to do it. And I didn't expect it. I expected him to be, nervous. He was absolutely jacked up to come in and do the stuff. Um, I don't to answer your question as a parent, I don't push him anymore.
Yeah.
He's going to do what he's going to do. So when I have a text from him that said, Dad, I did my dynamic workout because he had some things going on with the hip. I did my dynamic workout. I want to go back tomorrow if it's okay with you. He's ready. He wants to get back to work, right? So as a parent, I love that he has the work ethic, that he has the desire to want to do the thing, right? Being a parent and a coach is very difficult. It's why I resisted you for so long, right? We went over that. And you finally talked me into it because you said these kids are, so we're on the driving range.
I remember.
And you said the thing that got me, because we went back and forth about it. I've always gone back and forth about the daddy ball thing, right? And you said, I honestly don't believe that anyone else could get this done but you with these kids, and they need it. And I gave you yeah, and let's see. Most people can't talk me into things, but like he knew what needed to be said, and he was being honest, and
It
so
was real.
it was real, and that's why I said, okay, it's time to walk this walk. But as a parent and a coach, it's very difficult. Now, I've figured out something with my kid because it did not go well in the beginning because I wouldn't treat him like my kid at all. Right. And he couldn't comprehend that. So we did come up with a guide that when my hat came off of my head, I was dad. We're not talking about baseball. When my hat's on my head, I'm the coach, and that's the relationship. And if you want to talk about baseball, you ask me to put my hat back on physically. and it changed the way that we do things. So it allowed me to have a perspective clean from coach and parent, and it allowed him to have a separation between the two, and it's really allowed him to, I believe, flourish as an athlete.
Yeah, no, he's definitely went a long way. So one of the things that I think is fair to say, and I mean everybody knows it, so we can say it out loud, right? Is
Sure.
that in our program we have two different programs,
Yeah.
right? Our high school stuff, 14 and up, is one thing. It's a totally different beast.
Yeah.
Our 7 to 13 is something different, and we're working really hard to transition to make that one. But I think it's fair to say it hasn't happened yet,
Sure.
right? So you were kind of the guinea pig. We treated you when you were at 10 with I don't want to say a untalented roster because there was some potential, but they weren't great baseball players.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
And they did everything that the high school kids do from 11 years old to now.
Sure.
Right. And now these kids are impact players. You have multiple guys who are impact players.
Sure.
You still have some holes in your roster where we have to work through and all those things. I get all that. That's baseball. Right. But
Always.
and they've all grown. So tell us a little bit about what you see from the outside looking in now that you're kind of in with the high school stuff. You know what's going on now that your kids are 14 versus what happened when you were in the youth stuff. And try to blend that for us and understand the approach we're trying to accomplish. I would really like your opinion on the differences.
I like that question.
So we don't necessarily, again, it's the great thing about being authentic. We don't necessarily see eye to eye on the path of, on the way. We agree with what it needs to be. We have different ideas of how to get it there, right? And I've kind of used my mentality inside of what are your goal set, right? What you're trying to get to. I don't like select baseball. I don't like where sports is going. I don't like what it's done to the kid, that it's taken the joy out of the game to the kid. I don't like that there's a kid with 4 parents and or 2 parents and a grandparent back there. I don't like all that, right? I don't like that there's dugout screaming at umpire. Just can we just make it about the kids getting better at the game? They never get a chance to enjoy the game. Inside of that, I believe that we kind of fight that fight inside of this world. We're in a world where it's necessary to do what we do because it's where the kids are and it's how they're going to get where they want to get. This is the path, right? If we're going to best serve our young athletes and give them the dream, this is what it has to look like. Do I want to go back and be able to just let a kid have a juice box and an orange yeah, I'd love that. That just don't really happen anymore if you want to play this game a long time. And so to me, it's a necessary evil to get them to start so young, but you kind of have to because somebody's going to, right? Like somebody's going to start that young. And so are we going to start them on the right path that young to where by the time they get to the high school program, they have gone through the gauntlet. They are prepared. My team is the epitome. Like maybe 2 of my kids, had they not gone through our system, would stay in our system. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth.
Yep.
But because they were in the system, because they did buy in, because their parents bought in, because they understood our purpose and our plan, and they stuck to it, they're still here. And who knows what'll come next year? Because 14 is kind of the year, right, where a lot of kids figure out who they're going to be and what they're going to do. It'll be up to them, but it won't because they're not prepared. It won't because they haven't had the right situation.
I
don't
think
know
that
if
blends it perfectly.
I don't know if that answers your question or
I
not.
think it does because, I mean, you know, we want to protect the youth of our children so, you know, so viciously, I think sometimes. It's almost like we have a hone over it. You know what I mean? And to be able to have that, excuse me, that freedom, it's really, it's eye-opening in my opinion.
When the other situation is it goes to the mental portion of this. Why I focus so much on mental training is because one of the reasons youth baseball isn't youth baseball anymore is because we don't live in a youth world anymore. Kids get a phone in their hand and they're an adult. You're an adult, even though your brain's not ready until you're 26. You're exposed to it.
Yes.
So we do have to take a different approach because they're so distracted and they're so overwhelmed emotionally from just exposure that we do have to be much more concerted with what we're doing in order to keep them interested at that age,
Mhm.
right? And to get them used to what they're going to be up for so they can appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I think so. I think I'm going to take a junction here. I might take a right turn onto a new exit. But you were speaking about how Doug has an impact on you in the way you make decisions sometimes, and how he is one of the only guys who can kind of convince you. Tell me a little bit about the background of you and Doug's relationship, and how that's progressed over time.
Authentic. That's transparent and authentic. He told you the history of how we met I love that Doug is not always going to tell you what you want to hear. Doug is rarely going to tell you what you want to hear, but not because he's being mean. It's because generally in the roles that he plays most of his day, telling you what you want to hear is not going to get you better. And the one thing I met him a long time ago, and he invited me into his world in a mentor scenario, and I have hopefully served him well. I've done my best. I've been dumb enough. I've lived long enough through doing enough dumb stuff that I have grown wise because I'm still breathing. So it gives me some semblance of license. And then he asked for help. I, that created that mentorship. It's become much more of a friendship. But the whole goal, I believe he told the story back the way I hired him, so on and so forth. The short version is when I met him, there's a spirit in him. And I was like, that guy's got a purpose, right? And so he and Zach and I all talked about the this basically.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
And the
The
God part
napkin,
was,
right?
yeah, heck yeah. And the God part was I had the same dream before I met them in another state because I'm a hillbilly from Kentucky, right? So when I get up here and we all meet, we all have the same vision. And so we walk the walk together. And I hire him at Alcor for this. It's just the first step, right? You got to walk the walk. So the whole goal was when I left Alcor, I hire him. I already knew I was hiring him, but I had to get it set up to hire him. So I hire him to run my LED company. I don't hire him to run my LED company to run my LED company. I hire him to run that to prepare him to run this. Because it's always been the plan was to facilitate his dream. Because the greatest thing about Doug is that there's no Doug in Doug. Doug doesn't Doug Doug cares about Doug, but only because who he is to everyone else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the greatest thing about him is the way he takes coaching. Like I could be in a bad, and I've done it to him, and I apologize for the times that I have, but like he's come to me with something, and I've gave him the really straightforward version of it, and the way he can take that information and go, okay, how do I fix it? How do I get better? I can't do it. The way he can emotionally detach from educating, from learning, is why he is as gifted as he is at everything that he does. And that's why our relationship, because we we are very opinionated. We don't sit on the same side of things. It's why things are as comprehensive and holistic in everything that we're doing because we're coming and we're respecting each other's opinions. Excuse me. We don't want to have the same opinions. If we have the same opinions all the time, then what we're putting out is not whole. So as we've grown in a partnership realm, and he's grown more confident in his abilities to be the dude. I know. I remember when we first started, you would ask me for advice, and I'd go, "It's whatever you think's best." How'd you feel about that?
I hated it.
Hated it. Absolutely. Like he told me, you know how much it bothers me when you say that. I'm like, I would hope it would be the opposite because we're at a point where I completely trust in your ability to make a good decision, and I just want you to make it. But we hadn't had that version of the relationship yet,
All right.
right?
You do that to me sometimes.
Yeah. So that's the whole point. Is like it was just it's it's just a walk, right? So that's why it's always been this way because all I care about is the best version of him. Is
Yes.
him realizing his dreams, because his dreams are driven by God, and you can see the result in what they do. Like no one can question what his stuff, right?
Yes.
If he's involved in it, this is what it looks like in the end. When I it became very evident to me that that needed to be put on its highest pedestal. Um, so that's how our relationship has grown. Um, I don't have the right to say I'm proud of you because I'm a flawed human, but from where he started to where he is now is testament to his ability to take teaching and his lack of selfish motive, for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, weekly meetings for a decade,
100%.
right? Where we would talk and mentor and all those things. And those are very important to me. Like, that's not the thing that gets replaced. And the problem is when people want to be mentored, they will set up a schedule and they will do it for a couple months and then something's more important. Well, I did this or I scheduled this and now it's not that priority anymore. Um, and I knew I couldn't, I'm too flawed as a human because I'm so emotional and I'm so passionate about every person I'm in contact with that I will burn myself up without that mentorship. So, like, yes, stuff's going to get moved around, but that isn't. Like, that hour is locked. Like, okay, so I've got 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. Okay, that hour's gone. So now I got to schedule everything around that hour because that's the most important hour of my week because that's where I'm going to grow. Because the more I grow, the more I can bring people with me. Um, because I can't do it without, right? So you got to have that hour of mentorship. You got to have your time in prayer. You got to read the word, which as I've grown older, I've gotten better at. Um, and I think a lot of that comes from him. And then you have to just love people. And you got to love people and you got to genuinely care. But if you're not trying to get better as a baseball player, you're worse. If you're not trying to get better as a leader, you're worse. If you're not getting better as a person, you're worse. If you're not doing those things to mentor yourself to grow, in my honest opinion, you get worse. So, him being, I don't want to call him the middle coach because that's not exactly the relationship we have. It's a little different than that, what he would do with athletes. But the mentorship as a leader, a person, a Christ follower, um, is crucial in my schedule. It's crucial in my development. It's crucial in how I can impact every kid that walks through our door. Um, you know, I don't try to talk about myself a lot. That's something that he's taught me. X was me and him were joking around the other day. I asked him how he was doing, this and that. We were having a good conversation. He goes, "You know what, coach? I'm sorry. I've never asked you once how you're doing." And he's like, "And you never tell me. How are you?" And we had a really good conversation. And obviously, I love X. He's awesome. But
Yeah.
it's just, it's stuff I've learned from him that I try to do. Now, I don't do it well all the time, right? We're all human. We all have flaws. So, but yeah, his relationship is incredibly crucial for me. Even if I want to punch him in the face sometimes.
Oh yeah, I hope so. It's just like coaching. If you listen, if you're always happy with me, I'm not really I'm not living up to my responsibility. One of the things that I do, I am most impressed with him is how authentically he's grown his faith. It's not fake. It's very real. And I tried to when we first started in that walk was, hey, so just learn that God doesn't care how you talk to him. He cares that you talk to him. It's fine if you cuss at him. It's fine if you say all those things. I promise I have too. But just remember when he answers you through all of that, remember that you cussed at him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's authentic relationship. It's so, and that's kind of what I'm teaching. That's the nutshell of what I'm trying to teach the young men.
So obviously you've been in our youth program for a few years now. This is your first year of being inside the high school program. You've seen it from the outside looking in, right? But this is the first time you're actually on the inside of our high school program. So tell me some things on our structure of how we do things with our 9-month plan for our athletes.
Yeah.
And how you've seen it from your perspective and some of the things that you like about it.
I like how consistent it is. I like how it translates into year 2, 3. I like how it never really stops. You say 9 months, but it's really It never stops.
Mm.
That 3 months they're gone is an evaluation period as to what they're going to work on when they come back. Your commitment to who they are when they're not in the building. That makes sense?
Mhm.
That makes it flawless in the execution of the next step. And because the system is so well organized, we're not just out doing reps. There's intent with every single activity that we're doing all the time because we know these athletes so personally, right? One of the things about you personally is that this 18-year-old kid that played for us when he was 11 and 12 and then went somewhere else, you still remember what he did at 11 and 12.
Mhm.
And you can make an impact on it as soon as they fold back in. So the consistency with which we train, obviously, proof is in the pudding. So what we're doing is working. But I would have to say if I had to pick one thing, it's the fact that the gap when they're gone is so impactful on how when they come back because you don't stop paying attention. You keep paying attention to everything they're doing. You go over here and watch this game. You drive over there and watch that game. You go over there. Everybody in the system that's training is talking all the time about every one of the kids and how they're doing. And like, every kid that's everywhere and what they've done. Like there's a bunch of tryouts going on right now, right? Where every kid's at. You know the status on every kid, right? Like
Sure, yeah.
you have an emotional attachment to the success of every player in the program. It's absolutely essential to you
Oh, for sure.
because you know how hard they're working.
I do.
So I think that our authenticity in the way that the high school program is literally built for the same reason that I started coaching these kids at 10. I want you to play baseball as long as your body will allow you to play baseball.
Yep.
And that's what our entire thing is set up to that. And we're true to it.
Yeah, whatever your ceiling is, let's go get that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think I just kind of wanted to add to the program aspect. I like the structure questions. I kind of want to get into team like us who not like me and you, but
Sure.
like tell us a little bit about like Juan Espinoza. Like tell us a little bit about how your relationship with Juan and what you see Juan do and the roles that he plays.
in top velocity.
Yeah.
Juan as a person is my center. he's so positive about
Yes.
everything he does all the time. Listen, I'm biased, but I'm going to tell you that there's nothing put together better than what we have here for an athlete anywhere. Because the level of expertise in our trainers, their level of dedication to what they're doing, and their sincere caring for the athlete. None of us are doing this none of us are doing this for us. We're all doing this for the athlete. I believe that Top Velocity is the most effective, comprehensive training program for anyone that's picking up an object and throwing it because it does it safely, and he is an absolute expert at it. And he's completely dedicated to it. And he's an incredible human being, which is a differentiator. A lot of the times when you're the best at what you do, that's the part that kind of gets shoved off is you got to be a killer. I've already told you about it. Like I don't believe there's a better hitting coach on the planet than this one because his memory, along with his expertise, along with his passion, along with his OCD nature of you don't get to do it wrong, right? Like, but that's in every cage at some level. You talk about X. I love X because he and we both value that mental game so much.
Mm-hmm.
We comprehend it. And where did it take him to be and where has he struggled with it? Like he talks about it.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't get where I got until I figured out
Yeah.
we all care so much about creating the best athlete, the best individual out of every athlete that comes through here.
Yeah, I want to add a follow-up question on that. So obviously a lot of your group is working with Sam
Oh yeah.
Faulkner. So like your son, his 60 time dropped 0.8
Yeah.
in the last 5 months. Hayden same way.
I like Hayden dropped a whole second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
It's very likely.
I one of the guys who I know is working with Sam now too, who I think is probably one of the most underrated players in our programs, Adam Gray.
Yeah.
The
Worker.
kid's just a worker.
Yeah.
I think the world of that young man, and
Yep.
obviously I'm fortunate enough to get to hit with him consistently and all those things. So tell us a little bit about the impact that Sam Faulkner's had, not only on our facility but your team in particular.
Anyone who consistently comes here and trains under Sam is going to change their entire trajectory as an athlete, period. Again, I believe that with all of our trainers, but the energy that he's brought in, he embodies the same commitment from day one that we do to our athletes. He's got it in him. I've not seen anyone not have that type of jump that consistently comes in and works.
Yeah,
Never.
that's true.
Because he will take a group of 30 kids at the same time together in a group setting and individualize a workout for every athlete to
Make it
to
fun.
maximize. But like he's you in strength and performance, because he'll literally in the middle of that program adjust little things for every single athlete, so they're getting their personal, like he memorizes it all, he knows what they need.
I'm not I'm not an athlete, right? I'm old, but like, you know what I mean? Like when I started training with him, one of the things I really appreciated the most is we had a really in-depth conversation over a couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay, what injuries did you have playing? And he
Yes.
knows my body so well.
And Juan does that as well.
Yeah, he'll be like, "Hey, you're gonna do this drill," and if I'm in a group of 5 people, "Hey, Doug, you're gonna do this drill. This person's gonna do this and this.
Yes.
And so you just do this." And he protects me from my couple things that I've had happen over when I'm back when I played, which was a long time ago now. So that was one thing I really appreciated. My follow up to that would be, obviously you talked about the consistency and the structure of our off season program.
Yeah.
That all comes from, well, most of it comes from Frankie's brain, right? So tell us, and I know you and Frank have a really, really good relationship, really tight relationship.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what Frankie has brought to P413 and our teams.
Excellence, passion, dedication, experience, authenticity. Frankie's Frankie.
Yeah.
Like he's grown, and he'll tell you that, and he does tell you that. Like if you look at his social media, he's very quick to tell the story of how this place has impacted him. And I would say that he's impacted this place equally as much. He rivals you in how much he cares about each one of these kids and their path. And you all do the same thing that you and I do.
Oh, for sure.
Because y'all come from different places.
We do.
But you respect each other's opinions so much. And in the end, it's about the athlete. And you let the athlete choose. And he just loves this place. He just loves it. And he loves baseball. I mean, I have not seen many people as much of a baseball nut as you, and I'd say he's
baseball and his dogs.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Baseball and his dogs.
Yeah.
Shout out
Yeah.
Ox and Luke.
Yeah. Frank is
Nice.
Frank is a huge deal, and he's constantly trying to work. I think we all do. We're constantly trying to look ahead. What can we do to continue to make it better? We're never stopping, right? And I think the collaborative mentality of that is why this place feels the way it feels. Different here when you walk in. It's not the same as, it's not just coming in doing, like we all we all say hi to each other, even like the families. It's just like a great big family here. And I think that all of our dedications, Frankie was how we talk about all of our dedication to creating that environment is why this place is as special as it is.
Okay, Marty. So we all know why you moved to Ohio. Let's just talk about about that a little bit. I think that all of us here at the table know that the hardest job is coach's wife. Tell us a little bit about Gina and what she's allowed and how she's allowed and how she's impacted you through this time.
Yeah, the short version is that we met when I worked for GFS in a different state. She trained me. I moved up here. The second I saw her, I knew. Like sometimes God whispers and sometimes he hits you in the face. And this was a haymaker. And he was like, "Hey, man." So I moved up here. I did everything I had to do to move up here, get with her. In the middle of all that, the year that we're getting married, my brother commits suicide. So this whole thing flips. And I get up here and that happened and I'm here and there's all these amazing things happening. But like her ability to manage my ridiculous emotions and my drive is uncanny. It is literally God sent because she's so understated. She's so consistent. Uh, she's so patient. It takes a very specific individual to support someone who gives their self to coaching uh, because it's so unpredictable. Last night, I came up here for an hour. I left at 10. I got here at 6. We were supposed to do dinner at some point in there. She just did the thing. Didn't get mad. It is what it is. She understands what it means to be a coach's wife. That's not an easy thing. It's the hardest job on the planet is to be a mom and a coach's wife. I don't believe that there's anything more difficult on the planet than that.
Yeah.
And she's not in it for her. She's in it for me. And it allows me to be in it for the kids because I don't have to worry about if she's there. I don't have to worry about it. She's just there.
I think that's important. We definitely take notice of that. The wives.
I couldn't do it
You know,
without it.
absolutely. I
No
mean,
way.
Krista's my backbone. She's my rock, man. She does a lot for me, and I know you talk about Jamie a lot the same way.
She's
You don't want to know pre-Jamie, Doug.
No, right.
no. Yeah, no, you're right. You're better 90.
Most of the people out there that dislike me is because they met pre-Jamie Doug.
Yeah. Yeah. And I attest Jamie's.
So the next thing is one of the things we're lacking at P413, or one of the things you believe we're lacking at P413 is the nicer way to say it, or one of the things where we can improve at P413, right? Long way to ask a question is I'm really excited about the fact that we're going to start the mental game for our athletes.
Yeah.
Not just the baseball players, people that train with Sam, whoever that wants
Sure.
to be part of it, right? We're going to start the mental game stuff with you coming in to lead the mental game stuff. And you've now been able to free up a schedule where you can now commit to this full time so you can do that.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the mental game stuff, why you think you needed to input that at P413, and a little bit about how excited you are to start working with the athletes on the mental game.
I believe that we lack as a whole in the industry of focusing on the mental part of the game, especially in baseball. It's all the mental part of the game. Like baseball is such a mental game. Stop, reset, prepare, do, stop, reset, right? We spend so much time on the process, but we don't spend nearly enough time on the process because this is what makes this do what it does. And so if it's confused, if it's overwhelmed, if it's not focused, if this doesn't do what it's supposed to do as well, right? So I believe that it is equally as, or maybe even more important to have a how many times have you seen a kid who wasn't all there athletically, but that mindset was there? And he's the dude that's making the play, right? In the bottom of the ninth. He's the dude making the play.
Yep.
Because he's prepared and he's focused. And so I built a program that addresses all of these things that we go through as young athletes and allows them to get education around their passion. It's just like when they step in and they start taking swings, right? They're not as good as when they start as 2 years later if they're doing it consistently. I believe you have to train your brain just like you train your body to maximize your potential.
Well, how monotonous our game is and how repetitive our
Yes.
game can be, it can drive you nuts if it's not done the right way. Well, did you feel the same way the first time? Did you feel the same way the second time?
That's
I think
part of
so
what we
much
talk about is
what we focus on.
feedback.
Yes.
Don't just get in and start taking cuts. Like log the cut. What was the result? What did you do to get it? Those things. Getting into that and helping your brain self-regulate and comprehend what it is that your body needs to do to where you can be part of that solution. It makes it easier for you as a trainer.
Yeah, one of the things you've always helped me with is trying to get me back to center with a focus point or a breathing or even a thought, whatever that thing that centers you is. Take a second, take a deep breath, get back to center because you can't help if you're not back centered. That was always one of the things I've always really appreciated in our internship.
Yeah, he
because-
did that to me the other day where you like, Kyle, you're like, frustration, like, give it to God. He'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So that was always one thing I really enjoyed. But like I said, I'm super excited about this opportunity.
absolutely. I mean, my follow-up question, I guess, with that would really be like, tell us a little bit about your approach and how you came into the mental game, how it became important to you.
Well, again, it goes back to the bigger thing is that I believe we live in a society that breeds negativity and that creates an environment that's difficult to navigate without some mental fortitude and disciplines. I believe that it's severely lacking in our youth. With the introduction of technology, it introduces a lot of uh, digital distraction, digital overwhelming.
That constant dopamine
You
of
you just never stop.
yeah.
Like my phone is buzzed in my pocket 17 times in the last 20 minutes. That's the world we live in now, right? You have to learn to be able to control that. And you have to do it in life once you get out of sports, but sports magnifies life. Baseball more than any other sport in my mind.
Indeed.
So to be able to implement a mental focus and a mental game plan, just like you do physical. Well, it's shown in my kids because I've instituted this with them since the very beginning, and who they were and who they are, it's not the same. So
Yeah.
I just know the value in it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, really excited. Be looking for information on when we're going to start our mental game stuff in the building, and it's something I would recommend you try to advise yourself on. And so we end every pod with the same question. We've asked every guest the same question at the end. If there's one thing about this game that you could change to improve it at any level, what would that thing be?
I'd like it to look a little bit more like it used to. One of the things I've taught my guys, and everybody's different. If you hit a home run on somebody, you don't need to flip the bat and do the stuff. You don't need to. I know it's what everybody does now. But you understand that the one that's the most feared is the one that doesn't have a reaction? Because all you're doing is you're telling your opponent you're going to do it again. Hey, that's normal for me.
Hey, you look like you've been there.
That's normal for me. Just want you to know. And plus, it also sends a message to your teammates that you're in it for them and not you. I wish it was a little bit less about the image and more about what we try to make it about, right? Which is, again, why I like what we do. It's because we really do preach team above self. We do really preach those things. I wish it was a little bit more like that. I kind of miss the old school days where if you bat flipped, you got one the next time you got up. I wish we could get back to that. That was, I wish it was a little bit more like it used to be when it comes to competition.
No, I think I like that answer. Baseball, it finds its weird ways to create new tradition, but sometimes it takes away from old tradition. That's about all the time we had today, Marty. I just wanted to, thank you for coming on the show and giving us your time. I definitely greatly appreciate it. I think our viewers are definitely going to get this one. It's a little bit of chicken soup for the soul today. If you guys want to see more things like this, make sure you follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And to never miss a notification on our social media accounts, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All right, boys.
Appreciate you.
That was a good one.
It's America's favorite pastime. Come on, let's have a good time. Slinging seeds. Yeah, we're just slinging seeds.